the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Definitely, Coach. Now, has camp started with Deontay? Has this camp started yet?
No, we're gonna do. They're gonna do a little press tour. First, Deontay's always in the gym, so it's not like we have to say, hey, we've got to be in on this day.
Yeah.
He's in.
He's constantly working.
Unless he's got something going on, media-wise or family-wise, he's in the gym. So there's never a thing where he has to get in shape. He's always in shape. That's one of the beauties, is that when you're in shape, you don't have to spend your time getting in shape. You can spend your time learning, executing. We bring in sparring like almost immediately in Camp Wilder. We don't have the traditional 4 weeks to get in shape, 4 weeks of sparring. We don't do it that way. We tend to spar every other week. We start right off.
Very interesting. And Coach, you've been with Deontay basically his whole career.
From day one.
From day one. So what's the biggest improvement you've seen in him, man, from day one to now, and the thing that stands out and what he's developed?
Yeah. Well, I think his boxing IQ, it's always been high, but it's through the roof. He sees things, and excuse me, I was out there in the heat there, with the flies and
humidity,
everything.
man.
Yeah, but it's all good. But the thing about Deontay is his ring IQ is so good, and number one, as time has gone by, he's learned to his control and pacing is so good. He knows what's going on in the ring. He sees things, and we talk about it in training. He'll see something, and I may see something and say something to him about it, and he'll say, well, I see that, but here's what else is happening in there. And I can see his IQ is just off the chart. So he really has an extremely high ring IQ, and I think it's just getting bigger and better. That's probably the thing that's come so far, is he's a young guy. He wouldn't listen to his body as much. He wanted to spar all the time and train all the time. Now, if he needs a day or if something's bothering him, he's smart enough to say, you know what, let me take a day and get this healed up a little bit or whatever.
Yeah.
So he knows his body inside and out. He knows what he's doing inside and out. He's got ring IQ. So he's really doing what they call entering that prime.
He's a true pro.
Yeah, he's a true pro, and he's entering his prime. He's really at the very beginning of his prime years.
Coach, can you kind of touch on, we know that Deontay's been criticized from people and fans for his technique, but I think what you need to kind of point out is the fact that he does what works for him, and something that may not be orthodox for any other given fighter. His positioning, the way he throws punches, it works for him individually. Can you touch on that?
He's an awkward fighter, and he's more athletic than any other heavyweight in the world. So he uses that. He uses those two things, some awkwardness and some athleticism that you don't normally see, and those things work for him. I tell people all the time, Vladimir Klitschko was probably the most technically correct fighter of our generation as a heavyweight. Vladimir. Vitaly Klitschko was probably the most unorthodox heavyweight, probably didn't throw a correct punch in 10 years. They're both going to be in the Hall of Fame. One of them already is, the other will be. That tells you that there's different ways of doing things. Deontay can do both. If you look at the Stavern fight, the jabs at the second Stavern fight, the jabs at the beginning of the fight, the 1-2 that knocked him down, as textbook as it gets. And then once he had him hurt, then he did sidestep, a couple of awkward things, and they worked too. So he's got some of those traits from a technically correct guy, and then he's also got those traits from a guy that uses athleticism. So he can do it all. He can do both. People that just see what they call the wild stuff, they're not really watching him. They don't really know and see what's really happening in there. You don't beat a guy like Bermain Stavern over 12 rounds if you don't know how to box. You don't beat a guy like Luis Ortiz if you don't know how to box. If you just go out there swinging wild against a guy like Ortiz, it's not going to work. In a million years, you've got to do a lot of things technically correct, but you've also got to have a lot of heart and athleticism, because Ortiz probably, aside from Deontay, probably one of the top guys that you could ever fight.
Definitely, Coach. And you know what? Deontay fought very patient in his last fight, and he shot that right hand perfectly off the ropes. I think something that goes overlooked in his game is obviously his jab, but I think his timing, his ability to time his opponents with his power. What did you learn from Deontay in the last fight, if anything?
Well, really, I always knew that there was a level that he could go to that people didn't know he could go to. They always question, can he go rounds? Can he do this? Can he do that? He's always been able to do those things. He's always been able to dig deeper than anybody else. No matter how deep you dig, he'll dig deeper. And so he's got that, and we knew that he had that. He went into that fight at 214 pounds, having been sick the week before the fight. So he was only 70-75% max for the Ortiz fight.
Yeah.
How would you like to fight Luis Ortiz at 70-75%? It's a difficult task, but Deontay did it, and he won.
The voice of the people, the boxing voice. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get notified anytime one of our videos drops.
Ain't no other sight in the game can see the boxing voice.